So I was feeling into today what I wanted to talk to about in regards to transformation. And if you guys are not familiar with me, my name is Wendy Lee, and I am a life and business coach and influential speaker. And everything that I put out there in the world is what has helped me through. And I just want to share this with other people. So when we talk about Transformational Tuesdays, I start thinking about what are some of the things that really helped me make those big shifts in my life to really transition, a real transformation. Not something that was fleeting, but a real transformation. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that things don't come up, but I'm able to deal with them better and the duration is shorter. So, one thing that really helped me is learning how to speak my truth. And if you ask anybody today, are you a truthful, honest person? Most people would raise their hand and say, sure, yes, I am. And I consider myself that way as well. However, there was a lot of situations where I wasn't just speaking my truth. How I felt, what I believed, how the interaction with somebody was making me feel, an idea that I had. And for me, a lot of reasons behind that was just old patterns of thinking that really were created by outside forces that don't even exist anymore. So some of the ways that it was manifesting in my life is that I would feel that feeling of wanting to say what was on my heart, right? Which is your truth. You know your truth. It lands right here when you want to say something and you catch yourself and you're like, I'm not going to say it, or I don't want to say it, or it doesn't come out. And when we do that, we're basically not stepping into our authentic self. So we're creating this image and this version of ourselves to the world that really isn't our true selves. And it takes a lot of energy to live up to that persona because it's not ours. So, in thinking about that, some of the patterns that I came to know and that I can recognize when I'm sitting in a place where I'm not speaking my truth is, and tell me if this resonates with anybody, if you're not, if you're being passive aggressive about things, meaning, say somebody says something and it hurts your feelings, and instead of talking to them directly, you either say a snide remark, or you say everything is okay, or you go and then talk about it to somebody else about, oh, I can't believe this person said this. Probably we're not sitting in our truth. And what would be available to us if instead we say, hey, can we go back over that part of the conversation? It wasn't sitting right with me. Now, when we do that, we have to have some accountability for how we're showing up in the conversation and our responsibility in knowing how that got triggered in us to begin with. So it could be that we're coming out passive aggressive. It could be that we're taking on everything and it's everybody else's fault. So what do I mean by that? As women particularly, we tend to take on a lot of responsibility and then get mad at everybody else around us who are not helping. So we either tend to do things ourselves because we're so mad, or there's a level of perfectionism in that. So maybe they are trying to do stuff, but they just don't do it the right way. Um, or it could just be that we just don't ask when we need help. And it's been a little bit more difficult because now with social media, right, we get to show everybody, we get to see what everybody else is doing. And so the level of comparison has gone way up. And it makes it difficult just for us to sit in what that truth is about ourselves. So we're like, well, everybody else is killing it, right? You see it plastered all over the place. I got my hustle on. I'm a badass leader. It's kind of like, I could do this myself. I don't need any help. The truth is that we all need help. And our truth is that most of us feel a lot of times that we are drowning and that we're getting buried. That's what we feel internally, but our truth is not coming out to express that. So instead, what do? We do more. We take on more. We say yes to more things. We give our energy away. Even with this trading of social media, we feel obligated to follow people or like people or be a part of that because we want that in return. And it becomes this currency that's just too hard to keep up with. And so when we don't step into our truth and just say things like, hey, I could use some help with this. Or when people say, how are things going? They're going pretty good. And I'm also struggling with this part. So just putting yourself out there and asking and letting people know that gives other people permission to do the ask. So when we're not asking and we're maybe even getting upset with other people, that's an indication. When we're finding ourselves being passive aggressive. And the other way that we know when we're not speaking our truth is when we find ourselves maybe becoming defensive. And everybody has a defense mechanism. I do, you do, everybody does. It's something that for myself that I continually need to work through and work on because it shows up because it's a trigger. There's something else that's going on that triggers that. And when I don't step into and speak my truth about it, then I find myself getting defensive. So one way that we can combat that is taking a look at things with curiosity versus trying to defend ourselves. Like a good question to ask is, I wonder why that person is reacting right now. Not to me, but to the situation. Because here's the deal. 99.999% of the time, what other people are doing and saying to us has nothing to do with us. So it's an interesting concept. So again, on this Transformational Tuesday, I just really want to encourage you to step into that truth. I know that it feels scary, and that's why we don't do that. We may not have experienced that before. That may be not how we were brought up or feel like it's our way to do that. And by the way, this does not give you a license to be an asshole. Not at all. It just is. In fact, a lot of times when we respond and we're being an asshole, it's because there's really something we need to clear out that we're reacting to. We could do all this with kindness, and we still need to have boundaries. We don't want people walking all over us. So, Transformational Tuesday for me, and I hope for you as well, is just consider where you are in your truth, when you're speaking it, when you're not speaking it. And just notice in the next week when you feel like you want to say something and you don't, where that's coming from and what could be different for you, what could be a new opportunity by speaking your truth.